Is blindness a barrier? No.
Is deafness a barrier? No.
Are mobility, learning, cognitive disabilities, speech impairments and others, or even a combination of them, barriers? No way. Lack of accessibility is.
Welcome to Web Accessibility for All.
Follow the blind. This journey starts now.
It's designed to be simple, invisible even. One person fully trusts the sensor.
Just walk. Don't hesitate. Hesitation is what confuses it.
One person read the sign on the side twice.
It literally says, "Stand still." Why are we sprinting at the door like this?
One person is now trapped halfway through as the doors close.
Hey, no. Don't look at me. It opened perfectly fine 2 seconds ago.
And one person is forcing the doors open with their hands.
These things are broken everywhere. I'm just helping, okay?
Everyone is trying to get through the same set of automatic sliding doors in an airport. Everyone is absolutely sure they're right. The doors are technically open, but not really. Someone is stuck in the middle. Someone bounced into the glass. Someone outside awkwardly pretends this isn't happening.
Why does it close exactly when I'm in the middle?
It works. I mean, yeah, as long as you don't stop or slow down or exist.
That door? That's the slider. And this is exactly why sliders are considered one of the most difficult UI components to build. Some people see a number. Some people see control. Some people see a timeline. And some people just want it to stop moving. Let's talk about why sliders are such a problem. Ariel here, and welcome back to Web Accessibility for All.
Why sliders are one of the hardest UI components to build accessibly.
There's a saying in front-end and accessibility circles that sliders are one of the hardest components to get right. And every time I hear that, I kind of smile. Sliders feel simple. Drag a thing, change a value, done. But that's exactly where they trick us. Because the moment you ship a slider, you are designing a conversation between hands, keyboard, assistive technologies, and the user who expects fast movement and precision, visual feedback and spoken feedback, smooth dragging, and predictable keyboard steps. And they expect all of that to work without thinking about it. That's where sliders break. Aww. You can't quite land on the value you want. Focus jumps somewhere unexpected. The screen reader keeps announcing changes you didn't ask for. And when that happens, users think,
This thing is annoying. I'll avoid it.
from an accessibility point of view, sliders are dangerous. Sliders expose every assumption you've made about how people interact with the web.
Using input type range, the native accessible slider.
So let's start with the obvious question. If sliders are so hard, why don't we just use the native one? And honestly, a lot of the time, that's still the right answer.
Less input. Type equals range. Name equals volume. Min equals 0. Max equals 100. Step equals 1. Value equals 45. / greater.
Input type range already knows how to take keyboard input expose its value to assistive tech, behaving like a slider in every platform. It just behaves. And from an accessibility standpoint, that's huge. But the complaint starts.
It doesn't look like our design system.
It's different in every browser.
We can't style the thumb properly.
We need ticks, labels, tooltips, animations.
Custom sliders with hidden inputs.
This is the pattern I see everywhere.
We can't style this the way we want, but what if we keep it for accessibility and just put something prettier on top?
A hidden native element doing real work, and a visual mask of divs on top doing what the user actually interacts with. The popular div soap. The problem is that now you don't have one slider. You have two. One that assistive technologies talk to, and one that users see. And the moment those two fall out of sync, things start getting weird. This is why I get nervous when I hear,
Don't worry, Ariel. It's using a hidden native input.
sure, it can work, but requires perfect synchronization across input, focus, and state.
ARIA APG slider pattern.
This is where ARIA authoring practices slider pattern enters the conversation. The APG pattern assumes a numeric value, a bounded range, and a deliberate adjustment model. It works well for volume, brightness, numeric filters. It works poorly when used for navigation, timelines, content exploration.
Important takeaway.
The APG slider pattern is an advanced intervention. Grabbing the APG slider to avoid native styling is a trap. You're opting into manual labeler. You own everything, every keyboard event, every ARIA attribute, and making sure those targets meet.
YouTube's timeline. Media navigation explained.
Now I want to talk about the most famous slider on the web, the one almost everyone has used.
The YouTube video timeline.
Visually, it checks every slider box. There's a track, a thumb, a fill portion. You drag it, you use arrow keys. So it's completely reasonable that people think that's a slider, okay? But here's the twist. YouTube didn't build a better slider, but a navigation control. When you move the YouTube timeline, you are not choosing a value. You are saying, take me there. Time, not numbers, is the thing you are navigating. And that changes everything. The goal isn't precision in the same way a form slider needs it. It's exploration, speed, orientation. You want to scrub, to jump ahead, to go back a bit, to preview what's coming. That's a very different mental model.
One control, many layers.
What makes the YouTube timeline work so well is that it's not a single control. It's a set of layers that just happen to feel like one. There's a visual layer, the track, the thumb, progress fill, an interaction layer, drag, click, arrow keys, touch, a media layer, current time, duration, buffer ranges, and an accessibility layer. What gets exposed and when. Those layers are loosely coupled. Dragging the thumb doesn't immediately set a value the way a form slider does. It requests a navigation. The media engine decides when that navigation becomes real. That decoupling is intentional. It's why YouTube can allow fast scrubbing without spamming screen readers, preview content without committing to a state change, handling buffering, loading, and syncing gracefully. YouTube's timeline has several sources of truth: playback time, buffer time, user intent, visual feedback, and yet for the user, it feels like a single solid control. Well done, guys!
Sliders and timelines, value selection versus media navigation.
A classic slider exists to set a value. You are adjusting something. The user's goal is
put this thing at the right value and move on.
A media timeline exists to navigate content. The user's goal is
take me to this specific moment.
This is why input type range works so well for form values. APG slider makes sense for bounded numeric adjustments. They are solving different problems. And this is also where a lot of accessibility bugs are born.
How sliders affect keyboard, screen reader, and motor-impaired users.
Focus, operability, predictability. Yes, all of these choices maps back to the WCAG. But the spec alone won't save you, because sliders don't fail accessibility in one single way. They fail different people for different reasons.
Keyboard-only users.
If a slider doesn't receive focus clearly, respond predictably to arrow keys, support larger jumps with home and end keys, that's a reason to abandon the control entirely.
Screen reader users.
Sliders can become noisy. Every tiny movement announced. Values changing faster than they can be understood. Or worse, silence.
Users with motor impairments.
Dragging is often the problem. Small fonts, tiny tracks, precise movements required. If the only good interaction is dragging, the slider is already excluding people. Accessible sliders must work fully without dragging. Precision must be optional, not mandatory.
Users with low vision or cognitive disabilities.
Context matters. Sliders without clear labels, visible boundaries, meaningful defaults force users to guess, and guessing is cognitive load.
Touch users and mobile users.
On mobile, sliders become physically demanding. Accessibility here is about generous hit targets, forgiving movement, not requiring perfect control.
The key accessibility question: should this be a slider at all?
So when you are deciding whether to use a slider at all, the most important question is
a slider the right control for this job?
Sometimes a number input, a set of buttons, or a simple drop-down is far more accessible than any slider. Do you get it, my friend? Isn't about forcing sliders to work. It's about knowing when not to use them. Sometimes the most accessible slider is the one that you decide not to build. Thanks for listening to Web Accessibility for All. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone who's about to build a slider. It might save them and their users a lot of frustration. See you in the next one. Goodbye.
Thanks for joining us today. Subscribe for a new challenge next week. And don't be shy. Leave us a review or ask your accessibility questions online. See you next week for another episode of Web Accessibility for All.